Alrighty, so I finally get a chance to do the review of yesterday's game after I've been working pretty much all day until now, but it's better late than never in terms of doing the review of the 9 games that happened yesterday. Well, actually, not the nine games, but there was actually 12 games that was going to happen. I already reviewed the first 2 games yesterday, and I was supposed to review 10 games tonight, but the New York Derby yesterday decided that it wasn't going to be played because New York right now has a tropical storm that they're dealing with. And even though they did try to play the game and try to kick off around 10:54 p.m. Eastern time, the game was already lost because the pitch was pretty much waterlogged, and yeah, they just felt like wasn't safe enough to, of course, play on a waterlogged pitch, which is understandable. I mean, they even show footage of the fact that they couldn't even roll the ball more than 2 seconds with how bad the pitch was there at Red Bull Arena. But that being said, despite the New York Derby being postponed to another day, the good news is we still had some very entertaining game in terms of the first of 2 weeks in the Heineken rivalry week. And we start off with Atlanta United versus DC United in this game. And in the end, Atlanta really stole all 3 points from DC in this one because there was no doubt DC was the better team in this one, and this was just a classic example of what happened when you're unable to put away your chances when you're given to, and you basically get punished by the opposition being very optimistic with their chances, and especially getting punished multiple times on the counter attack, and therefore losing the game and dropping all 3 points at home. Now, in the first half, Kamara puts it high from long range before Alfaro missed wide on a header. DC, of course, no doubt started off the better side. Junior Moreno then took a shot that goes high from close range before, in the 24th minute, Atlanta gets the opening goal, and it's Joseph Martinez scoring from Marcelino Moreno to give Atlanta a 1-0 lead completely against the run of play, because that was really the first chance that Atlanta has had, and also came from the counterattack, which is not the first time that we're going to see where most of the dangerous chances that Atlanta United is going to get tonight, and not the first time that they're going to score tonight from the counterattack. Now, in the 37th minute, Kamara missed an absolute sitter from 4 yards out in 37th minute, and if there is one shot that kind of summarized DC night, that one is definitely one. I mean, how in the world did Ola Kamara not put that one in, or even not put that one on target? Like, usually in that spot, it's harder to miss than actually put the ball into the back of the net. Now, in the 42nd minute, there was a shot for a penalty for Atlanta, but it looked like Joseph Martinez kind of embellished the contact, and you kind of saw on the replay where, yes, Martinez went down on the ground, but it definitely looked like he kind of tried to sell it, and the referee was having none of it. But I also kind of wrote DC was vulnerable whenever Atlanta was going on the counterattack. And this is not a big surprise because we know DC and under Hernan Losada, this is a team that love to press and play that high pressure kind of system. And if you can get by their high pressure system, and if there's one way that you can, of course, bypass a high pressure system, just play over the top ball, or trying to play those good ball behind the press, because once you're able to do that, you got a pings of space to get behind the defense, and that's what Atlanta did throughout this game, where they were punishing DC for not only committing too many man forward, but just kind of bypass that DC press and just getting into the final third with absolute ease, because again, too many DC players was already committed for the press. But we head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. But in the second half, DC continued to get the equalizer, and they finally do get so in the 54th minute, as Jordi Reyna kind of did a Randall Leao goal, as he did a little cross shot goal from the free kick to tie the game up at 1 apiece. I mean, I know a lot of people would say that he definitely meant to do that, but judging by his celebration, where it was he didn't really celebrate that much. He kind of knew that, yeah, I was supposed to cross this one in, but it was very lucky the fact that one went into the back of the net and kind of did a Randall Leao there. But nevertheless, that goal does tie the game up at 1 apiece before Guzan absolutely robbed Edison Flores, who had a free header. Guzan was also another reason why Atlanta kind of stole all 3 points of this game. Definitely one of his best games they've played in this one against DC. Then he denied Skunk Rich from close range in the 66th minute. And I just kind of thought at that point Atlanta was just parking the bus. And they were trying to do what they did the previous 2 games, which is just try to shut things down and hope to salvage a point. But in the 79th minute, it looked like DC was going to get the second goal as Ola Kamara missed wide on a free header. I mean, Ola Kamara, he could have easily had 2 or 3 goals in this game, and the fact that he wasn't able to put the ball into the back net kind of just summarized the night for DC of just the horrendous finishing. Because in the 81st minute, after Kempin was able to deny Joseph Martinez his second goal and Elena chance to go ahead in this game, they would do so. Just 1 minute later, it's Moreno scoring from Barco to make it 2-1 in favor of Elena. Before 4 minutes later, Guzan absolutely robbed Felipe, who was going through on goal. And, DC was definitely looking to try to get a late equalizer, but they weren't able to do so. As in the end, Elena, as I mentioned, steal all 3 points away from a DC team that, despite playing much better in this one, weren't able to show their clinical finishing, and the stats pretty much shows that. 27 shots compared to 13 that Atlanta has, but only 7 of those was actually on target compared to 4 that Atlanta has. They had 13 shots off target compared to 7 that Atlanta has, 7 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 53% possession, that 47% possession that DC United has had. And by the way, ever since I made that video giving credit of Hernan Losada potentially could be the coach of the year in the first half of the season, yeah, things have not gone well for DC. So I do apologize in advance for DC fans if I kind of just jinx the fact that Hernan Losada is doing a well job. I mean, in some way, I think he's definitely doing a good job in terms of making this DC team being a very entertaining team, but the problem is he's kind of having the same issue that I remember when Mateus Almeida came to the Quakes and played this entertaining brands of soccer, and it kind of worked out for a bit, and then it kind of fell off of it because, teams kind of started to catch on to them, and I just feel like right now teams are starting to figure out DC a little bit where, they know that you're going to be under a lot of pressure and they're going to press you a little bit, but if you can get past that initial pressure, you're going to have a lot of space to operate in the back, and that's just something that DC's got to figure out, especially for her and Lasana. Maybe kind of back off that press a little bit. Don't just go like 0 to 100 pretty much throughout the 90 minutes in the press, but instead maybe kind of back off a little bit and not just leave so much space if teams are just going to kind of play over the press or actually plays through the press. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Inter Miami and Toronto FC, and there was no doubt that this was the best game that I think Miami had played so far this season, and that this was really the first time in a long time, or even the first time ever, I've seen Miami dominate this well against Toronto, especially from what we saw in the first half. Now, 4 minutes in, Gregor did put it high from close range before Robbie Robinson puts it wide as he was going through on goal, but there was no doubt Miami was all over TFC early in this game. Westberg was able to rob Pizarro in the 14th minute, but Pizarro would get on the score sheet as he scored from Gonzalo Higuain to make it 1-0 in favor of Inter Miami. And if Pizarro can continue to be this good in these last 2 games, watch out. He can definitely start to score a bunch of goals, and maybe he can finally live up to the potential that they bought him just a year ago. Now, 6 minutes later, Higuain did miss wide from close range. Before, there was kind of a warning shot from TFC when Soteldo struck the post on the free kick. And I say this is kind of a warning shot because this is when I thought Toronto did start to get back into this game and just kind of warn Miami that, yes, you're dominating this game, but it's still a 1-0 game, and we definitely have the weapons to score a goal against the run of plays and put a sucker punch on them. And I think Miami definitely took that warning because they waste no time to score that second goal once TFC started to get back into this game. And it's Robbie Robinson scoring from LGP to make it 2-0 in favor of Inter Miami. Robbie Robinson has really started to live up to his potential, and this is a guy that, if he can continue to score the goals for this team, I mean, that this is going to be something that, Miami will have another threat over on the attack, because we now know that in doing this resurgence that they have, not only they finally started to get some of their DP players like Pizarro and Gonzalo Higuain started to fire on all cylinders, but now you have Robbie Robinson, who we talked about how he had so much potential when he was picked number 1 overall, but unfortunately injuries kind of bite him a couple of times, but now he's started to be healthy, and if he can continue this good run of form, yeah, he is definitely a guy that I think a lot of people will watch out for in the future. Now, in the 37th minute, Higuain had a big opportunity to make it 3-0, and Gonzalo Higuain, I thought he was unlucky to not get on the score sheet, and this was probably the moment he could have, as he probably should have scored as he's trying to kind of chip Westberg. I think this is kind of the second time I've seen him try to do that going through on goal. I mean, I know sometimes you want to try to chip the goalkeeper as you go through on goal, but sometimes maybe you should instead of trying to do kind of that fancy thing, maybe he should have just struck that one past the goalkeeper, because he kind of got this one all wrong, where he tried to chip Westberg, but instead Westberg easily catch that one. But in the 43rd minute, Westberg would rob Pizarro a chance for his second goal, and Miami third from close range, before we head to halftime with Inter Miami leading 2-0 against TFC. But in the second half, it would be 3-0 in favor of TFC, as Pizarro would score again, this time once again from LGP to make it 3-0 in favor of Inter Miami. And it could have been 4-0 thing, or actually, but they actually had a couple of chances to make it 4-0. But then in the 51st minute, Inter Miami had a moment where they could have potentially went down to 10 men. And again, for the second week in a row, Robin Robinson, I thought he is very lucky to not get sent off. I mean, last week I talked about how he was lucky not to get sent off after he had that off-the-ball situation where he slapped one of the... Oh, God, I forgot who exactly it is, but he accidentally kind of slapped his opponent in the chest. And in this game, he definitely put a very high boot challenge on Westberg, and I think he didn't really get to this ball. And I'm kind of in some ways surprised that this was not maybe worthy of a red, because that is a very reckless kind of challenge. I mean, anytime when you put your feet that high up the ground and basically put your studs in the face of the goalkeeper and you didn't even win the ball, I would think that would be worthy of a red card. But he's very fortunate that VAR thinks otherwise, and that he only got away with just a yellow card in this game. Now, in the 62nd minute, TFC did eventually got one back, and it wasn't actually one of their players that scored the goal. It was actually Inter Miami helping them trying to get one back, as Calvin Lairdown unfortunately scored an own goal. And usually when I say when a player scores an own goal, it's kind of an unfortunate case, but this wasn't really one of them, because Calvin Lairdown, I mean, this was just kind of a simple ball. It should have been a simple clearance on the ball coming into the free kick, and yet he just kind of hit this one backwards and into his own net. And just like that, TFC might have had a small hope that they could, of course, get back into this game. But that hope looked to be all lost in the 78th minute when Morgan puts it wide from close range. And, as time winds down, Miami was definitely starting to be conservative, because knowing the fact that they're leading 3-1, they don't really need to go and expose themselves to potentially really kill this game off. And in the end, they were able to hold on to this 3-1 lead and win 3-1 in this game. As the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to the 6 that TFC had, 6 shots on goal compared to the 2 that TFC had, 6 shots off target compared to the 3 that TFC had. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 43% possession compared to 57% possession that TFC has in this game. And don't look now, but Inter Miami, they are rising up the table, and even though they are still I think 5 points behind the red line right now in the Eastern Conference, they have 2 games in hand over a couple of teams that is ahead of them. If they can win those 2 games in hand, they can definitely leapfrog them without even those other teams potentially have to lose for them to make up ground. So things have definitely started to look up for this team, and let's see if they can, of course, continue that. But for TFC, every week it just feels like it's getting closer and closer to that point where it looks like they're losing any hopes of making the playoffs. And I mean, right now, with another loss, it definitely does not help their case to maybe finally start making like resurgent for any chances of making the playoffs. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is New England Nfc Cincinnati. Now, I know this might sound crazy to say, but it's not very often where in an MLS game where when a team that is clearly by far for the more superior side and should expect to get all 3 points are able to do so. And again, I know that sounds crazy to see, because logic would say that, when a top team play against a team that is near the bottom of the table, they should absolutely thrash them, which we saw in this case. But that's just not the case in MLS. I mean, sometimes we've seen some upsets that happen where even the best team in the league, when they do play against the team that is near the bottom of the table, they kind of underestimated them, playing down to their competition. And next thing you know, that team near the bottom of the table were able to cause an upset. But again, this was not one of those, as New England being very professional in this game, respecting FC Cincinnati, and also just absolutely demolished Cincinnati in this game by winning 4-1. Now, early on, McNamara did put it wide from long range in the 3rd minute, but it didn't take long for New England to get the opening goal, as Tajon Buchanan, who continue his red hot streak, and that transfer fee continued to rise every day that he, of course, were able to put the ball into the back of the net, as in this case he did, to give New England a 1-0 lead. But in some way, I think this was kind of a gift from FC Cincinnati, and especially from Przemysław Tytoń, who, there was a ball that was coming in. He basically pushed this one right into the path of Buchanan. And when you're a goalkeeper, yes, I know you have to deal with those dangerous ball coming into the box, but you just simply cannot do that kind of stuff where you just pushed it right into the hands of your opponent. Like, at very best, at least you need to trying to maybe catch those dangerous crosses, and Tytoń just didn't do that. I mean, he just kind of pushed it right into the path of Buchanan, who basically said, "Thank you very much. I'm just gonna put it into the back of net and give my team a 1-0 lead." Now, in the 11th minute, it could have been 2-0, as Andrew Farrell kind of did try to do a Darlington Netby-esque kind of goal, where he basically kind of chested down and bring it down on his feet before basically hits one from long range. But unfortunately, it didn't quite work out this time for Farrell, as he puts it wide from long range. Before Turner did had to deny Acosta in the 13th minute. And I also thought that, Cincinnati, they were playing a very dangerous game in this one, trying to go at New England. And I sometimes I love the spirit of some of these teams near the bottom of the table to try to take it against their opposition and maybe kind of catch them out. But in some way, knowing the fact that Cincinnati is not a team that is very stable at the back, it was kind of surprised the fact that they try to play a dangerous game and trying to go at New England and trying to maybe score a goal and just kind of expose themselves at the back. Because, throughout this game, there was just multiple times this New England team just completely walks into that Cincinnati backline, which just kind of almost uncontested. Because in the 20th minute, they would double their lead, as Boateng would score from Buchanan and Buxa to give New England a 2-0 lead. I believe that's the first goal that Emmanuel Boateng has scored from the Revs, so congratulations on him on that. And that, of course, doubles the Revs lead to 2-0. Before Buxa almost made it 3-0 as he went through on goal, but just missed wide. But eventually, he would make it 3-0 just 6 minutes later, as he scored from Boateng to make it 3-0 in favor of New England. Then in the 41st minute, the post denied Bo and the Revs the 4th goal. And as I said, since that defense basically was non-existent throughout that first half, and they're kind of lucky the fact that they only let in 3 goals, because with the amount of chances that New England has in that first half, it could have been 4 or 5-0 heading into the halftime whistle. Now in the second half, Valo did put it high from 24 yards out before Cincy did get one back, as Bernier would score from Acosta to kind of give Cincinnati some hope in this one. Well, not really, because after they could see that goal, New England immediately looked to try to restore that 3-goal lead. McNamara tried to do so, but he missed that one wide before Tytoń has to deny Gustavo Bo in the 59th minute. But then 2 minutes later, New England would restore that 3-goal lead. And it's Buxa again scoring from Bo to make it 4-1 in favor of the Revs. Hagelin did flash one wide not long after to make this a 2-goals game again. But, to Cincy credit, I thought they were still playing hard for pride and trying to maybe get a consolation goal, or maybe even 2 consolation goals to make this game very interesting late. But New England did have a chance to make it 5-1 as Bo missed wide from 10 yards out before Valo blast one into Rosette from long range in the 87th minute. And in the end, New England able to win 4-1 in this one against FC Cincinnati. 12 shots compared to the 13 that Cincinnati has. 6 shots on goal compared to the 4 that Cincinnati has. 6 shots off target compared to the 9 that Cincinnati has. Both teams did not have a shot that was blocking this game. And anytime when that happens, I obviously would question whoever decided to keep track of the stats, because I don't believe the fact that there would be a game where we went full 90 minutes with either team not able to block a shot. Well, I would actually more believe in the Cincinnati, or more believe in the New England stats, because, as I said, Cincy defense in this game was pretty much non-existent, but I'm kind of surprised Cincinnati also didn't have a shot that was blocking this one. And also the possession-wise dead even at 50% possession. But yeah, this is just, again, one of those game that, one of those rare games in MLS where the superior team just absolutely took care of business and absolutely thrashed the inferior team, which, again, it just does not happen very often in MLS, with the way that we always credit MLS being a league that is very, that is a parity league. And we can definitely see at times where even the team that is near the bottom of the table occasionally can beat teams that is near the top of the table, but that was just not the case in this game between New England and FC Cincinnati. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Union and Montreal, who played to a 1-1 draw in this one. And, early on, Montreal, I thought they started as the better side in this one, but it was Santos, the one that had the first real chance of this one in the 15th minute, as he puts that one wide in the 15th minute. But then, 13 minutes later, he had another chance, tried to curl this one in, but it went wide from close range, before Corey Burke tried to hit to the top left of the goal, but unfortunately he missed that one high. And the Union, they were definitely pushing to try to get a opening goal early in this one, but instead it's actually Montreal the one that gets the opening goal, because before Gastek puts it high from long range in the 39th minute, Mihailovic would score from Joaquin Torres to give Montreal a 1-0 lead in this one. And in some way, I will say that Montreal did kind of look a little bit threatened as the half goals, but I kind of did not expect the fact that they would score right on the stroke of halftime, but they did. It's a 1-0 lead for them up to that point, and they would take that lead heading into the second half. Now, in the second half, there was a couple of half chances for both teams. Kiki Struna hits it just wide in the front post in the 60th minute, before Santos' header missed just wide in the 62nd minute. The Union, of course, did try to push for an equalizer late, and they would get an equalizer. In the 87th minute, it's Quinn Sullivan scoring his second goal for the Union from Elliott. I wrote goal of the week question mark, because this was an absolute banger that Quinn Sullivan scored. And apparently, Quinn Sullivan has started to adapt to the role that Hassani Dotson adapt with Minnesota United, which is when he scores, it's going to be bangers, and it's pretty much bangers only whenever Quinn Sullivan scores a goal. And he, of course, scored here to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and that was really the last piece of action, as judging by how little notes in this game. This wasn't really one of those games that was relatively entertaining to watch, and in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw on this one, as the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 9 that Montreal has, 5 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Union has, 4 shots off target compared to 7 that the Union has, 5 shots as blocked compared to none that the Union has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession. As the Union, they still are struggling in terms of scoring goals, as we've seen in these last couple of games, where goals have not been coming to bunch for this team. But for Montreal, I guess they'll be happy with a point, but knowing the fact that there's also teams behind them that are able to get all 3 points and have gained ground on them, I'm pretty sure they also are hoping that when they do return home in next week, when they do play against TFC, which I believe that game is either going to be at BMO Field or at Stade Saputo. I believe it's going to be in Stade Saputo. They're hoping to get a victory defense of all those teams that is chasing them for that last spot in the playoffs, because there is a lot of teams that is definitely chasing for that last spot in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be the Texas Derby, which ended in a draw between the Houston Dynamo and the NFC Dallas. And with this draw, it's official. The Dynamo, unfortunately, have the dubious honor of having the longest winless run of anybody else so far this season at 14 games. And at least at part of this game, it definitely felt like they were gonna maybe finally end that winless run, and they were going to do it in the expense of their biggest rival. Because early on, despite the fact that there was not much happening in the first 22 minutes, as it was a relatively cagey start in the beginning of the Texas Derby, the Dynamo did get a penalty in the 22nd minute after Pico basically was sandwiched by two Dallas players, which no doubt that obviously is going to be a penalty, and it would be him himself that was able to take the penalty and slots it home to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. And I thought after that goal, the Dynamo no doubt had the momentum. Matheus Ferreira did try to make it 2-0 as he hits it straight to Jimmy Maurer. After Maurer, I thought he was kind of fortunate to redeem himself a little bit after catching that one, because there was a ball coming in and he kind of spilled a catch that should have been routine, and hits it right into the path of Matheus Ferreira, but Ferreira wasn't able to stare that one in and punish Jimmy Maurer for that mistake. Before Ruti puts it wide from 17 yards out in the 37th minute. But then on the other end, Holland's Head had, I think, really the first real opportunity that Dallas had, as he puts it wide from close range. Before Vera did have a free header right on the other end that missed wide, and the game kind of started to become a little bit end-to-end after it was a little bit cagey and there wasn't really much that happened. But we do head to halftime with the Dynamo leading 1-0 against Dallas. Now, in the second half, despite the fact that I thought the Dynamo started the better side and controlled the possession, that lead that they had heading into the second half wouldn't last long, because in the 54th minute, Burgess would tie the game up for FC Dallas at 1 apiece. Before 4 minutes later, they would take the lead and turn this game on its head. And it's Ricardo Pepi who scored from Jesus Ferreira to give Dallas a 2-1 lead. But in many ways, this was a bad mistake from Marco Maric. I mean, he literally just kicked this goal kick right into Jesus Ferreira, and Dallas was kind of off to the races with a short field, which they were able to take advantage of that. And just like that, Dallas was leading the Texas Derby despite for a majority of the game. It was Houston, the one that I thought were the better team in this one. Now, in the 60th minute, Hadabi did try to tie the game up immediately for the Dynamo, but he missed that one wide. But the Dynamo would eventually tie this game up again. And it's Matheus Ferreira who, I think he definitely deserved to score a goal in this one, because he came close a couple of times in this one, and he finally got in the 72nd minute, scoring from Valentin to tie the game up at 2 apiece. But you know that the Dynamo is just not going to be satisfied with just a draw. They were pressing to try to get a winner and finally end this 13-game winless run against Dallas, but it was Dallas the one that actually had one of the best opportunity in the 88th minute and down the stretch to get a winner in this Texas Derby, but Marco Maric was able to deny Ferreira there in the 88th minute. And in the end, it ends in a draw in this Texas Derby, as it ends 2-2 between Dallas and the Houston Dynamo. Shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 11 that Dallas had, 4 shots on goal compared to 6 that Dallas had, 7 shots off target compared to 4 that Dallas had. Both teams had 1 shot out of block, and possession-wise, 42% possession compared to 58% possession that Dallas has in this game. And overall, I don't think neither team will be happy with a draw coming out of this Texas Derby, because while you would argue for Dallas, they'll be happy with getting a point on the road. Consider they were playing one of the worst team and a team that just aren't able to get victory. You would expect they should be getting 3 points on the road, especially if they want to consider themselves a playoff contender in the Western Conference. Whereas for the Houston Dynamo, I mean, the good news is at least they didn't lose, but at the same time, they didn't win this game, and that winless run continued to now be at 14 games. And again, I know eventually it's going to come to an end, but as each day goes on, it feels like it's almost like there is a huge chip in the shoulder of this Dynamo team, where they want to finally end this long winless run, but they just cannot get it over the hump. And I'm pretty sure once they do eventually get over the hump and get all 3 points to end this winless run, there's going to be a lot of celebration in Tab Ramos' team, because I'm pretty sure when you have been winless this long and have not got a win in over 3 months, it's really started to get to the players' heads, and it's really up to them to try to have that strong mentality to eventually end this 14-game winless run that they're currently on right now. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games that happened in terms of the Saturday action. So moving on, in terms of the next game, is Orlando versus Chicago. So this was another game that actually had a weather delay, but unlike the New York Derby, which eventually it was postponed, this game, despite the weather delay, they were able to play this game, and it was actually only delayed for 37 minutes because of lightning, which in Florida term, that's actually not as bad as it is case, because there has been games this season in Orlando where, I think Orlando this season, if there is a thing that they are definitely leading the league this season, it's weather delay. I mean, they have had pretty much almost every single game at least have a weather delay, but this is what happened when you decide to play in an area where there's always a lot of lightning storm in the Central Florida region. But in this one, the game was delayed 37 minutes, and the kickoff was set at 8:45 p.m. Eastern time. Now, by the time when the game started in the first half, 11 minutes in, Orlando had an early chance as Van de Vader unfortunately struck the post from close range. But on the other end, Ivanov had a chance to give the Fire the opening goal, but he hits it wide on the header before Van de Vader had another opportunity in the 27th minute. He teased a shot from 24 yards out, but missed high. I think Van de Vader definitely should have got a goal in this one, and definitely deserved a goal because he worked very hard to try to get one, but unfortunately he wasn't able to end up on the score sheet. But then in the 30th minute, there were definitely some concern. If you're an Orlando City fan, seeing Nani being subbed off for Chris Mueller. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is just a precaution that Orlando City decided to have, not playing Nani for a very long time, because, they do have that big rivalry game on Friday against Inter Miami in a couple of days. But still, it's not very often you see a star player like Nani get subbed off after just the first 30 minutes. So you wonder, is there actually an injury that is happening? I mean, I didn't really hear from the condensed highlights that I watched from this game that they mentioned anything about an injury that Nani, of course, suffered. But, hope for Orlando City's sake, it's definitely not going to, or for Orlando City's sake, it's not going to be a serious injury, because if it is, then that could be a huge problem for this team, knowing Nani is one, if not the most important player on this team. Now, in the 32nd minute, Stadihad did deny Ivanov from close range before Janssen puts it high from long range there to try to give Orlando the lead before halftime, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now, in the second half, Urso did put it wide from 15 yards out, as I thought Orlando started the second half the better side, and then were rewarded by that by getting the opening goal in the 51st minute. It's Benji Michel scoring from Akindele to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando City, but in many ways, yeah, this was just a self-inflicted mistake from the Fire, just giving the ball away in their own half and allow Orlando City to kind of work on the short field and try to take advantage of it, and they capitalized on that mistake that the Fire made. And just like that, as I mentioned, Orlando was able to lead 1-0. It could have been 2-0 just 3 minutes later, but Matinho blasts one wide from 17 yards out, as Orlando was definitely pushing for that second goal. But as the time kind of winds down, I thought the Fire was really pressing for the equalizer, and this is when Stadihad had to make a couple of decent saves. First, he had to deny Baric, who tried to curl one in the top left in the 80th minute. Before, in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, he had to deny Stojanovic on the header. And then there was a dangerous free kick that was coming in from Madron that Stadihad has to push that one away. But despite the fact that the Fire were threatening to try to get the equalizer late, Orlando was able to hold on to get a 1-0 win in this one. As the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 18 that the Fire has, 3 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Fire has, 7 shots off target compared to 5 that the Fire has, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 8 that the Fire has, and possession-wise, 47% possession compared to 54% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. And while it wasn't the prettiest victory for Orlando City at home, they'll take it because it's all 3 points for them. And for the Chicago Fire, this has been really typical of how the Fire has been really for this season and last season, where there's games where you just feel like they play a relatively great game and probably should deserve at least a point out of it, and then they just made a boneheaded mistake, and that boneheaded mistake is the reason why the Fire wasn't able to get anything out in this game. And with the way that this 5-game road trip has started with 2 straight losses, yeah, this has started to look like this season is once again started to get away from the Fire, and this could be another disappointing year where they potentially is not going to make the playoffs. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, speaking of a team that is in danger of potentially not making the playoffs and things are starting to get away from them, is the Portland Timbers. And this has been a disastrous week for the Portland Timbers with the way that we know what happened on Sunday and that embarrassment that they suffer in the Cascadia Derby. And then, of course, giving up a late goal to only got a point against Sporting KC on Wednesday. And now, against Austin FC again in a game where the last time they faced Austin FC on the road, they got absolutely demolished. And it felt like it was the same story again. And this time, that kind of floodgates that we saw Austin FC put against Portland in the first game happened much earlier, because in the first half, just 1 minute in, Jerussi had a chance to get his first goal for Austin as he tried to backheel one, but it couldn't quite connect. But then in the 7th minute, a penalty was given to Austin FC as VAR deemed that Van Reken brought down Dominguez, and clearly I think that was the right call. And in some way, I'm kind of surprised they didn't get that call correctly the first time, because it was pretty clear that Van Reken tripped Dominguez in the box there. And, you know, the only good thing about that is at least VAR did catch that, and a penalty was rightfully awarded to the host, which the host was able to take advantage of it, as Dominguez, the one that of course draw the penalty, would be the one that puts away the penalty to give Austin FC a 1-0 lead. And then 3 minutes later, it would be 2-0 in favor of the Verde, as Fagundes, who just loved to score against the Portland Timbers. You know, in the last time when both of these teams play against each other, I think Fagundes scored 2 goals. He scored again here from Lima and Dominguez to make it 2-0 in favor of Austin, before it would be 3-0 in favor of Austin in the 29th minute, as Jerussi would score his first MLS goal from Fagundes to make it 3-0. And I basically just wrote, it's happening again, only this time in the first half between Austin FC versus the Portland Timbers, where Austin just completely blitzed the Timbers and pretty much opened the floodgate. And in some way, this also kind of just summarized how Austin's season is, especially at home, where, you know, besides the last game against Vancouver, if they can score a goal, that is bad news if you're at the opposition, because you know they're going to score tons of goals. And this is also a reason why it's kind of like feast or famine for Austin FC when they play at home. You know, if they can able to score the first goal, it usually is a feasting kind of moment, scoring 2 and 3 goals not long after. But if they can't score a goal, that's when the famine, of course, started. And this was no doubt a feasting moment for this Austin FC side. And it could have been 4-0 just 3 minutes after Austin get the third goal, but Clark was able to deny Dominguez his second goal and Austin fourth as he went through on goal. But Stuver did have to deny Jimmy Char from 19 yards out in the 36th minute, and I thought after getting blitzed the first 30 minutes, the Timbers did start to get back into this game, but we do head to halftime with Los Verde leading 3-0 against the Portland Timbers. Now, in the 46th minute, Blanco clearly should have scored this one as he missed wide from close range. I mean, it's not very often you see Blanco miss a great opportunity, especially being all alone in the 18-yard box and puts it wide. Before 1 minute later, Jerussi tried to go for his second goal, but he missed high before Clark had to deny Jerussi in the 49th minute. And then Stuver had to deny Jimmy Chara as chances kind of started to fly in from both ends, but eventually it would be the Timbers, the one that gets the next goal, as Darren Asprilla would score from Chara to give the Timbers a slight hope in this game. But in some way, yeah, this was not a great moment for Brad Stuver, and this is why I said doing my mid-season award ceremony, you know, as much as I know some people will say Brad Stuver probably is going to win goalkeeper of the year, this is what's going to hurt his chances, because this is not the first time we've seen Brad Stuver probably should have saved an easy effort. I mean, this shot from Darren Australia was hit right toward him, and Stuver just did not get enough good enough hand into that one to push that one away. And, you know, with these mistakes that Stuver continued to make, I mean, this one, it didn't really kind of hurt them because they were already up 3-0. But if you're going to be considered yourself a goalkeeper of the year in MLS, you cannot afford to make those kind of mistakes. And this is also why I said during my mid-season award why I think Matt Turner is going to win the award, because you don't see Matt Turner make these kind of mistakes so far this season. Now, to be fair, Stuver did kind of redeem himself just 5 minutes after committing that goalkeeping howler, as he was able to deny Jimmy Chara to keep this one at 3-1. But Portland was no doubt pushing to try to get within one and make this game interesting. But Austin was also trying to push for a fourth goal to really put this game on doubt, as Beasler heads it wide in the back post in the 67th minute before Komanich tees one up from 21 yards out that goes wide. As I mentioned, Austin was looking to try to kill this game off. Then Niezgoda in the 87th minute was subbed on and made his first Timbers appearance since last September. Certainly a great moment for the Portland Timbers, and certainly for Niezgoda too. I mean, we talk about how when exactly is he going to come back. I mean, I kind of was a little bit surprised that he decided to come back in this game, and it was kind of also unfortunate that he came in to his first appearance in a game where the Timbers were pretty much staring down another loss against Austin at Q2 Stadium. But nevertheless, it was definitely a great moment to see Niezgoda back in this team. But in the 90th minute, Pochettino hits it straight to Steve Clark from close range, as Austin was still trying to push for that fourth goal. But it really didn't matter, because in the end, they were able to get a 3-1 win against the Portland Timbers, as the shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 11 that the Timbers had, 9 shots on goal compared to 6 that the Timbers had, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that the Timbers had, 5 shots that was off target compared to 3 that the Timbers had, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, Austin have more of the possession, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Timbers had. And, with this win, I want to say that maybe this can spark Austin a little bit, but I just feel like, if they want to kind of spark a second half resurgence and try to push their way into the conversation of making the playoffs in the Western Conference, they need to continue to win a couple of games in a row, because they're still very far away from above the red line. But for the Timbers, they, even though they're not that far away from being above the red line right now. In fact, actually, they were the team that was above the red line, but now have been dropped down to the 8th position after this loss, and also the Quakes getting a win. Yeah, I mean, they need to really turn this, start to put this embarrassing week behind and try to get themselves all 3 points in the next game. Although that's going to be easier said to be done, because guess who they're going to be playing next? Oh yeah, that's right. It's the same team that beat you 6-2 on Sunday against the Seattle Sounders in the Cascadia Derby. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to try to get revenge on the Row. So yeah, good luck, Portland. No pressure in terms of trying to get yourself out of what has been kind of an embarrassing stretch of run that this team has gone through. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Rapids and RSL, and this is a very rare victory that the Rapids got against RSL in the Rocky Mountain Cup. I mean, I mentioned how many times in this Rocky Mountain Cup how it's been relatively one-sided, besides that one game when the Rapids were able to win 5-0 against RSL. And it just feels like every time when both of these teams met, RSL, it doesn't matter if Colorado is being good or being bad, or the other way to say is that RSL could be good or bad against a Rapids side. RSL is still able to get all 3 points whenever this fixture comes, but that's not the case in this one, or at least it didn't look like that was the case early in this one, because I thought RSL kind of started well in this game. First, Rubio did puts it high from close range for the Rapids, but that was really one of the few chances that they had, because in the 7th minute, Yarbrough had to absolutely rob Rubin from point-blank range. And despite the fact that I thought that it was a very open start to this Rocky Mountain Cup, it wouldn't last long, because this is when RSL were really looking to get the opening goal. Yarbrough then again denied Rubin in the 11th minute, before Rubin probably should have scored or from 4 yards out, as he missed an absolute sitter there in the 20th minute. But there was no doubt that RSL was going to try to get that opening goal. Rubio then missed one just high from close range in the 31st minute, before RSL looked like they scored the opening goal in the 34th minute, as Rubin thought that he put the ball into the back of net to give RSL a 1-0 lead. But unfortunately, they go to VAR to see whether or not if it is offside on the free kick delivery, and the answer is yes. And I'll tell you what, it was very close, and in some way I think RSL fans maybe do have an argument that maybe it wasn't clear and obvious enough to be overturned, to being disallowed for offside, but nevertheless VAR says otherwise. The goal was chopped off. The game remains at 0-0. But trying to make sure it wasn't that case heading into halftime. But unfortunately, he puts it high from long range, and we do head to halftime 0-0 in this Rocky Mountain Cup. Now, in the second half, McMath did deny Mayaka in the 50th minute, and that turns out to be a big save because just 1 minute later, on the very next sequence, Albert Rusnak would score from Herrera to finally give RSL a well-deserved 1-0 lead, though that lead didn't really last long because 13 minutes later, Rubio would score from Jack Price as Colorado score a trademark kind of set-piece corner goal to tie the game up at 1 apiece before Trusty did block Mendes shots off the line as RSL was looking to try to get themselves the lead back in this one. But that being said, Colorado were also looking to trying to get the second goal as McMath actually robbed Galvan in the 68th minute, and I kind of just wrote after that chance that this game really was up for grabs because both teams was getting chances and pushing for that second goal, and eventually Colorado would get it. As Mayaka would score from Galvan and Rosenberry. I believe that's the first goal for Mayaka for the Colorado Rapids, so congratulations to him. And certainly a big goal too, and what a way to score your first goal in the Rocky Mountain Cup to give the Rapids a 2-1 lead. But then in the 81st minute, there was definitely a huge shout for a penalty for RSL, and this probably could have been a penalty if it wasn't for the flag being up before there was a potential penalty that happened in the box. This was kind of very similar to what we saw in that Cali Clasico on Friday, where it looked like there was going to be a penalty for the Galaxy in the first half, but the flag was already up before a potential penalty is up. And once the flag, of course, is raised, everything pretty much stops, and it's kind of like a dead play, and everything that happened after the flag is up doesn't really count. So in many ways, Colorado was very lucky that of course happened. But as time started as time kind of wind down in this one, we started to see some tempers start to flare because just a reminder that even though I know people would say the Rocky Mountain Cup is an afterthought rivalry, doesn't seem like it in this sequence when there was some pushing and shoving between both of these teams, and this kind of all started with Galvan and Abubakar kind of having choice words with each other. But after that little scrimmage, RSL did kind of try to pile on the pressure to get the equalizer. Beasler had the best opportunity late in this one as he had a free header, but that goes straight to William Yarbrough. But in the end, Rapids get a rare Rocky Mountain Derby win against RSL in this one, able to come from behind to win 2-1 against their hated rival. As the shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 15 that Colorado has, 7 shots on goal compared to 6 that RSL had, 4 shots off target compared to 6 that RSL had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that RSL had, and possession-wise, 47% possession compared to 53% possession that RSL has in this game. And I already talked about how Colorado is definitely sending a message to the rest of the league, and especially in the West, that watch out, we are definitely coming for not only the top 4 spot, but maybe even the top spot of the West, because they have now took over 3rd spot in the Western Conference, and they're not actually that far away from trying to get that top spot away from the Seattle Sounders. But as for RSL, they'll be very frustrating with this game kind of got away from them, and kind of can see those 2 late goals to lose this one. But the good news for RSL is that, as I mentioned, they're in a stretch where it's a relatively easy run that they had in these next couple of games. And this is also kind of the reason why the last game was so huge that they were able to get a win, because if they didn't get a win in that last game and they lost this one to the Rapids in the Rocky Mountain Cup, things would have been a lot different than where RSL is in the standing. I mean, they probably would have been below the red line right now, but as of now, they're still above the red line in 6th position. But now moving on into the last game in terms of this review is Vancouver. So this was, as I mentioned, an emotional game for the Vancouver Whitecaps, because this is the first time in 500 plus days that they get to play in front of their home fans at BC Place. And they make sure that this was a memorable game for them, because they were able to come from behind to get a dramatic 2-1 win against LAFC. Although early in this game, Cifuentes did have a chance in the 5th minute, but he puts it high from close range. And I thought LAFC was just putting wave after wave attack on the Whitecaps early in this one. But to the Whitecaps' credit, they did ride that early storm out and started to get themselves into this game. And it was kind of courtesy of a couple of bad LAFC turnover, and that LAFC was being a little bit sloppy at the back, giving the ball away, and allowed the Whitecaps a chance to go on the other end. And knowing the fact that this is a Whitecaps team that has a lot of fast players, that is probably something you don't want to do, which is giving the ball away in your own half. Now, in the 12th minute, Dahomey puts one high from long range before there was a shout for a penalty for LAFC in the 19th minute. That was not given. Now, in the 26th minute, Crepeau absolutely robbed Orengo, but Orengo had a chance to bury it on the second attempt, but he missed high from the header. This won't be the only time when Crepeau would make an amazing save in this game, because I feel like this was also another game, just like the game between DC versus Atlanta, where the better team in this game weren't able to not only not get a point out of it, but drop all 3 points because they were not being clinical in front of goal. Now, in 36th minute, Rossi missed an absolute sitter from 10 yards out. I mean, Diego Rossi this season, like many LAFC attacker, are just having a really tough season this year, and especially with the way that it feels like ever since this team has really struggled to score goals, not for the lack of trying, but just finding their clinical finishing. It started to almost kind of get into the heads of some of these LAFC attacker, where no matter how good of a chance they create, they just could not put the ball into the back of the net. Because in the 43rd minute, he had another opportunity where I think 2 years ago, I feel like he clearly could have put this one into the back of the net, but because Rossi is not being sharp, he puts that one wide from close range in the 43rd minute. But LAFC did eventually get a chance to take the lead after all the pressure they were putting on the Whitecaps, as a penalty was given to LAFC after VAR Dean Brown brought down Rodriguez in the box. But when you look on the replay, yeah, it definitely does not look like that was the case. It looked like it was maybe Rodriguez, the one that kind of stepped in the leg of Brown there, and therefore that's why Brown kind of had the reaction and unfortunately brought down Rodriguez in the box. Now, as a Minnesota fan, I know a lot of Loons fans will watch this and basically said that this is karma for what happened a couple of weeks ago when the Whitecaps had a penalty that was given to them when it was clearly not a penalty, and it was their player that fouled the defender that basically won a penalty. And I know, as I said, a lot of Loons fans will basically tell Whitecaps fan that this is karma for what happened a couple of weeks ago. But I'm not going to go there because, at the end of the day, I do feel for the Whitecaps and the fact that, this is just something that kind of frustrates me every time when this happened, where something like that could have easily changed the game. Now, fortunately for the Whitecaps, it didn't kind of change the game in this way, but it could have easily done so, especially right on the stroke of halftime where they were so close to getting this one at 0-0 and ride out all the storm, and then they basically gave away a penalty that clearly shouldn't have been a penalty and should have been a foul on the other way. But nevertheless, LAFC were able to take advantage of that as Rossi was able to put away from the spot to make it 1-0 in favor of LAFC. So despite the fact that Rossi hasn't been sharp in front of goal, at least he's still sharp in the penalty spot to give LAFC a 1-0 lead heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Dahomey did drive one that goes high, and I thought the Whitecaps definitely started the second half the brighter side and was looking to get the equalizer, and they would get it in the 60th minute as Ryan Gull scored his first career MLS goal after originally this one was smacked off the post. I forgot who exactly is from the Whitecaps, but one of their players smacked it off the post, and Gull was just there in the right place in the right time to stab that one in to tie the game up for the Whitecaps. And by the way, the goal celebration miss that the Whitecaps had every time when a goal, of course, was scored, it was still going off even when the play basically restarted. Like, I understand that it's been 500 days since the Whitecaps had played at BC Place, and they're so excited to see their team finally score a goal, and they kind of go a little bit overboard with the goal celebration miss, but it was kind of weird seeing that it was still going off. And I also feel like maybe whoever was in charge of that, since, again, it's been so long since the Whitecaps has played, they probably didn't get the hang of how to actually switch that one off and still let the miss go off, even though when the play was already restarted after the goal, of course, was scored. Now, in the 62nd minute, LAFC had a big opportunity to go ahead after they conceded a goal, and in many ways they should have, because first Crepeau was able to make a great save to rob Rossi, but Brian Rodriguez, this was an empty net. All he has to do was just tap it in, and yet he hits the post. I mean, I just don't know how in the world you don't put that one into the back net. Well, actually, I know why. This is the story for LAFC this season, which is, no matter what chance that they had, no matter even some of the easiest chance that they have to put the ball into the back of the net, they just aren't able to do so. And it's no wonder why this team has been on a really rough patch and going through a downward spiral lately. Because, if they could have got that second goal and get a 2-1 lead, they could have had the momentum heading into the last 30 minutes. But instead, they gave the Whitecaps a chance to maybe score the second goal and really left them off the hook. And the Whitecaps almost take advantage of that in the 72nd minute when Baldissimo drive a long range shot that goes into Rosette. But in the 72nd or 76th minute, the post denied Orengo and LAFC to go ahead goal. And that also is another moment where I just kind of feel like, LAFC is pretty much not going to score a goal in this one. But despite the fact that they weren't able to score another goal, you might think maybe they can hold on to just get a 1-1 draw out of this game. No, because in the second minute of the stoppage time, it's that man again, Ryan Gold, scoring his second goal in his MLS career as he scored from Repulso to make it 2-1 in favor of the Whitecaps. I mean, I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Ryan Gold was a big signing for this Whitecaps team, and they finally have found a playmaker that it seems like now he can also put the ball into the back of the net. And because he was able to do it then with little time left, the Whitecaps easily were able to hold on to win 2-1 in this one in dramatic fashion. As the shots in this game, 10 shots compared to 24 that LAFC had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that Vancouver has, 3 shots off target compared to 12 that LAFC had, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Vancouver has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that LAFC has in this game. And also with this win that the Whitecaps has had, they keep pace in terms of the team that is above them that also have won games and also have been able to gain ground on some of the teams that also drop points ahead of them. But for LAFC, they got to figure this out. Like this is just too good of a team that I feel like is going to miss the playoffs. And in some way, this is kind of almost the same thing I said about their intercity rival last season and kind of all season long, where I feel like that was too good of a team to miss the playoffs. And I feel like this team is even better than what I said about the Galaxy last season, that is too good to miss the playoffs. Because when you have a team that have superstar players like Diego Rossi and Carlos Vela and Jose Cifuentes and all those players, and you still aren't able to get above the red line now that we're almost 2/3 into the season, that is just an absolute embarrassment on LAFC part. And they don't figure this out, this would have been one of the biggest achiever and one of the biggest surprise of the season. And I even said that if this team does not make it to the playoffs, I think there are going to be some people either in that front office or there could be some personnel change in this team. And especially the fact that, Bob Bradley this season, I know there's a lot of LAFC fans that maybe are starting to say Bob Bradley out. But here's the thing. This is also a contract year for him. And knowing how LAFC is going through right now, they're with the way that these resort has gone on, this is not looking good in terms of Bob Bradley's chance to potentially stay this season. Because he, even in his press conference, he looked like he's just almost as clueless as a lot of these LAFC players of how in the world with all this talent that we have on our team, and still week in and week out we aren't able to get all 3 points, and now start to losing against team that we should easily beat a couple of months or even just 2 years ago. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 9 of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the review for all 9 of these games on Saturday. And again, today is a very rare day where we didn't have any MLS action. And originally, I remember I said that the reason why Sunday we didn't have any MLS game this week was because of the All-Star Skill Challenge. Well, it turns out that is actually going to happen on Tuesday. So I have no idea why today we don't have any Sunday action. I guess maybe this is just a day for those players to basically travel down to LA to get ready for the All-Star game. But nevertheless, what a start to Heineken Rivalry Week, and it's just going to get even better as we know next week we got another fresh batch of Heineken Rivalry Week and some fresh batch of rivalry game that is along our way, and I can't wait to see that of course is going to happen, and also the All-Star game that's going to be happening on Wednesday between MLS All-Star and Liga MX All-Star. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.